How are we going, everyone? I just got back. It's still morning, not super early, from 3AW. Just did the morning program with Darren James, and just want to recap on some of the topics we spoke about in the morning, a few calls that came in. The most important one for me would be, well, everything's important, I suppose, the insect, the depopulation of insects, or the disappearance of insects across the board. I think it was in Keilor, somewhere around there, Taylor's Lakes or Keilor, where he's been there for 20 years. He hasn't seen insects. He's been growing natives and even local varieties, indigenous to the region, trying to bring in the wildlife and the insects. And the short story to that is basically because of the stuff that we've been doing in our gardens. And this is across the board, not just in Australia or Victoria, across the board, across the world, using the products that actually disconnect our plants and our soil life. It actually disconnects the insects as well and all the composting creatures. So if you used to in the past see harlequin bugs, centipedes, the butcher boys, I keep forgetting what they're called, and others alike, and they're not around as much as now. Part of the reason for that is because there are a lot of composting creatures. They like to digest all that organic matter that you add into your garden and help break it down, and then the microbes and the fungi kick into it to take it up and turn it into minerals or create those minerals for your plants to take up. And when that composting process disappears, so do the insects. And then you don't get the insects above ground. And what you will get what we call pests, insects that actually start digesting your plants. And if they can and eat your plants down to the ground, it means your plants' nutrients or minerals are very low, depleted. So the plant's bricks count, I suppose, if that is low, then the insects will come in and they'll feast off anything that's basically not up to standard by Mother Nature. And how does that happen? Well, it happens by using, synthetic refined fertilizers, insecticides and fungicides. Constantly doing that all the time will give you nothing but problems. Eventually, the plants will look good, probably, in the short, but they've got absolutely no nutritional value inside or minerals to be able to, warn off and protect themselves against any attack. So, and what's happening to the wider community? Well, it doesn't stop just in the backyard or front yard. It stems from, the agribusiness, basically. So the larger the farmland, the more likelihood they're using heavy fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers, and drenching to the point where they'll kill anything, to the ground. Literally all the insects, even wildlife, will get infected by it or affected by it. So we need to really change our ways. We've got to wake up and say, okay, why do we grow these? Why do we do it? And bottom line is because we love A, the flowering plants, we love nature. B, we want to eat healthy food. And when we grow it at home, it's meant to be healthy. But if you're told to use a all-in-one purpose fertilizer or a specific citrus food or a camellia azalea food, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I've got to reinstate it because not all of you are listening. And it's important that we all start sharing and advising others and our neighbours, because he's trying, this gentleman who called in this morning, trying to get his stuff going, but the neighbouring houses, I dare say, won't be as actively aware and practicing it as well. So whatever the neighbour sprays, if it becomes aerosol and blows over to your garden, well, then you're copying whatever they have. It's like, it's just basically bombarded by stuff that you don't want because your boundary lines are invisible or just a fence line, but it doesn't stop everything. You're not going to live in a bubble. And we shouldn't be spraying, folks. Bottom line, we shouldn't have to spray. And if you've been told to buy a spray, tell them to keep it. And again, another part of it is chemicals that you're not going to use or fertilizers that you dare not use anymore. What do you do with them? Well, look up your local council and see what website they have and what details they have on their website as far as, collecting unwanted goods or hazardous chemicals or products. You need to get them out of there. You can't just bury them and close your eyes and say, that's fine. That's not how we do it. We constantly bury everything that we've sort of discarded. That's a cheap way, a cop way out, basically. And the consequences of that are starting to show now, decades later, because they started, 70, 80 years ago, these refined fertilizers that we use so-called to benefit us. All they do is disconnect our life, soil life from our plant life. If you get your soil wrong, everything above ground goes to shit. It's like building. I told you this before. You don't get the foundations right. You can build the biggest Taj Mahal or building whatever you like or home, but if the foundations are undersized or not adequate, well, eventually you're going to have problems, and that's what's happening now. If we've been using those fertilizers from the 30s and 40s and however far back they date, we are starting to see the effects now. And I dare say these guys girls who invented these stuff know truly well what they do and the detrimental effects they have on our well-being, our soil, our environment. But, you know, behind closed doors, no one speaks about that. They don't want to share that information in the public eye. Well, I am. And many others like me are sharing it. And I'm seeing the huge difference with my garden. Look, these tomatoes are germinated now. They're right out of season. On a lighter note, I did take one in. If you were listening to the radio this morning, he got one in and it was actually really good because these have been stuck out in a cold winter night. So the plant that I transplanted and gave it to Darren James at 3AW to nurse to good health was a lot better looking than these ones because it went straight into our potting mix. Which is something that's coming out. So on a side note of that, I should say about the potting mix, created over a long period of time with my mate, Wayne. So Wayne, if you're listening, this one's for you, mate. So Bellarine Soil Tech, we work in partnership together on creating our wonderful mediums and soon to be an outlet as well. So I'm not going to give you the full details yet. You can look it up. It's easy to find, but he's not stocking everything yet now. So you have to go through our website. But once we do open him up, we will be announcing it loud and clear. So Soil Tech is the guy that, or Wayne is the guy that I work with behind the scenes to get it right, and we are constantly tweaking and changing a little bit just to get it even better. So the potting mix is a great one, and it's going to look after your insects as well. You'll find even worms developing in there too. There are no toxins. There are no of these words used. Organic plus. I hate that. I really hate that when they say organic plus or boosted with extra nitrogen or whatever they want to put into it. All it's telling me is that you've got a probiotic, which is basically your compost, your organic matter working well, whether it's a potting mix or a bag of soil. And then when it has all these extra boosted stuff like water crystals, saturate watering, I shouldn't brand anything, call it out. No water crystals, no slow release fertilizers, no synthetic fertilizers that are soluble. All that stuff there are antibiotics. That's the easiest way to explain it. And what do? They knock out anything living. So it preserves the life of the medium, but it provides no beneficial value to your plants. So if you're going to use a potting mix to grow some quality plants like eggplants or tomatoes or whatever you like, use something that's alive. It's got activity inside, beneficial microbes, bacteria, fungi. That's what feeds your plants. And on the topic of tomatoes, and this is where it was starting from, but as you know, I digress a lot. But going back on the topic of tomatoes, the call with a guy also about growing tomatoes. He's tried every variety, and this is for everybody who wasn't listening to the radio. He's gone from all the varieties, trying to get the flavors that he experienced in Italy. Right? Now, if I reflect back in my home village, my parents' home village, they didn't have fertilizers. They were a very poor sort of village. There was only about 30 homes and only about 20 people living there and about 200 goats. They couldn't afford to buy anything in. They used whatever the land had to offer them, even the manure from the goats. And they had the best flavoured tomatoes. And I dare say that's exactly what's happening with this fellow with the Italian tomatoes or the tomatoes he ate from Italy. He tried all types of varieties. So he's rambled off all these different varieties of tomatoes and said they all tasted the same. Shit, they didn't taste anything like it. Well, hello, maybe it's not the tomatoes, maybe it's your soil, because the flavonoids, which are what makes the flavours in your fruit and veggies, comes from the soil, doesn't come from the plant. And if the soil hasn't got it, your plant's not going to have it. So you know when you buy that stuff from the supermarkets and you think it looks fantastic, but when you taste it, it's tasteless? Well, there are no flavonoids, there are no minerals in the soil that are actually going to be able to be taken up by the plants, or fungi, microbes that make that stuff to give your plants the nutritional flavours and value. So if they don't exist, you're not going to get them. I didn't give a stuff how good it looks. Honestly, if you're shopping by eye only, that sense, you got it all wrong. And it's not your fault because we've been conditioned that way. So let's dumb it down. Let's get back into smelling and tasting. Maybe just buy one fruit. Actually, don't buy any fruit. Grow the fruit. Go to your farmers markets. Get to know these folks who grow this produce. Make sure they're in season. And don't expect to eat something that's out of season. Your gut biome, your gut flora doesn't need it out of season. It needs fermented foods now in winter. It needs citrus now. You don't need tomatoes and cucumbers and watermelon. You're way off. You know, we're in the wrong hemisphere here to have that sort of stuff in winter. Sure, in Queensland, where it's 23 degrees now and they're growing tomatoes, it's their season. Knock yourselves out. That's fine. But here where we are, it doesn't quite work that way. So eat what's in season in your local region. Your body adapts to it. You acclimatise to that environment. It's called a microclimate, and that's what our gardens do as well. So without me talking anymore, because I can feel the camera starting to shake, it's getting a bit heavy, is it? I've got to sign off here, folks. It's our last day today. So if you're watching this video as it's just been uploaded, switch over to 693 AM dial radio with me, Darren James, talking gardening. And our Thebarton outlet, as I've announced many a times, today's its last day. We'll be closing the doors for good in Thebarton. So if you're in the regions of Adelaide and nearby Thebarton, pop in there. Dom and Phil are there to help you. Grab as much stock you can because it's dirt cheap. We want to get rid of it. Otherwise, we're going to have to relocate it somewhere else and sell it to you again. Double handling, not worth it. Discounted to clear, folks. Take advantage of that, and we're doing the same with all the other outlets. They're not closing down, but we're offering you the same special so everybody gets the same opportunity to grab a great bargain. Vasili'sGarden.com, and more importantly, above everything else, happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mums out there, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, mothers and mothers-to-be. It's so important that we celebrate their well-being and their presence here, because without them, all this wouldn't be here. Pretty simple. Mother Nature. Celebrate it. Celebrate it with your mum outside in the garden and enjoy it every day. Enjoy our website. Vasili's Garden, because I've got to say that. Vasili'sGarden.com. He's shaking his head now. Maresi.